Hi, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Michelle. I make videos about books. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. Today is my favorite video to make out of the whole year, and this is my best of 2022 video. I had to do it a little differently this year. This is part one. So these are just my romance and contemporaries, and then my next video will be like my horror and my thriller, because I read 290 books and I couldn't narrow it down, and I feel like that's okay. So before we get started, if you can hear banging above me, it's my children. They're fine. They're with their father. It's just the playroom is right above me. So yeah. Second, I have 20 books to talk about today, and I'm letting you know first and foremost that they are pretty much in no particular order. Only the last two are like my top 1 and 2, but everything else is interchangeable, and it's just going to be like a little easy breezy, and that's how we're gonna do it. So let's get started so this isn't a billion-hour video. So the first book that I don't have, let's start with that, and that is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This was my first foray into dark romance, and this is a mafia romance following enemies to lovers arranged marriage, and I absolutely love this one. I remember the first chapter like I read it yesterday. It involves strawberries, and I just thought it was great. But we're following this couple who come from rival families, and they have to get married to each other to like bring the families together, but obviously they absolutely hate each other because their families are rivals. So anyway, you know, they end up falling in love, and I just think that they are the perfect couple. Okay, like I had a great time just reading this one in general, so this had to make my list. The next ones I all have, so let's go. This first one, or second one I guess, is the last book I read in 2022, and this is why I wait until the beginning of the year to make these videos, because you never know. And that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I read this for a video that's coming out soon, but this follows August and Jane is stuck on the Q train. She is from 1975, and she is in a time loop, and August falls in love with Jane, and Jane falls in love with August, and basically August is trying to free Jane from the train, but she also loves Jane, so it's very like catch-22. She wants to free her, but she's in love with her, and I absolutely love this one. I like this one better than Red, White, and Royal Blue, so I just thought that this was adorable. It is quite big. This was a 12-hour audiobook, which I think is too long. Like, there were definitely some things I could have gone without in this book and like focus more on the romance, but overall I had a great time reading this, and I absolutely recommend this one. The next one is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is part of like the Cinderella series. There's another one by Jasmine Guillory that I haven't read yet, but this follows our main character, I think it's Cindy, that makes sense, right? Who is looking for love, and her stepmother, who she gets along with, which I thought was great, is like a producer for a bachelorette type show. So she goes on, I think it's the Bachelor, she's one of the contestants, okay? And she falls in love with the Prince Charming, and I just thought that this was great. And the funniest part about this is that this is completely a closed door romance, so there's no smut in this at all, and I thought it was amazing. Like, this just goes to show that I don't always need intense smut in my romance books, and I absolutely love this one. I think Julie Murphy is a great writer, and I could babble on about this book forever. It's just so cute. If you're looking for something not as smutty for whatever reason, definitely give this one a try. I absolutely loved it. The next book is Yes and I Love You by Ronnie Lauren. I actually got this off a recommendation from Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads. She read this for one of her reading vlogs, and I had never heard of this book, but I had seen the cover a couple of times, and I was really intrigued. And first of all, I didn't even know it was a romance. Like, this looks like a literary fiction in my opinion. So when she was like, this was a steamy romance, I was like, what? So I got it and put it on my 5-star predictions, and it was a 5-star. This follows a couple who are fake dating. It's like, it's not even fake dating. I think it's friends with benefits. Anyway, they end up falling for each other, and the smut in this one was so good. Like, it was like, the sexual tension was just like throughout the whole book so good. And then I'm not going to spoil why it's called Yes Then I Love You. I think you should read it, and it makes sense when this was like brought up, and I was like, oh, this is such a good title. I plan on reading the next two this year, and I'm in love with this book. It's such a quiet romance book. I absolutely loved it. The next book is amazing, and that is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. I read Mia Sosa's debut a couple years ago when I wasn't really into adult romance, and it did like nothing for me, but now that I'm into adult romance, this was everything. This follows a woman who is like at a wedding, and she sees the wife has been cheating on the groom, and she stops the wedding. And then the groom and the woman who stops the wedding start a fake relationship because he needs to like be married for convenience or whatever. So if his boss sees that he's in a relationship, then it's in his favor. There is one scene in the middle of this book that I will never forget. It involves a party. It is amazing. It is so funny. I was cracking up so hard. I absolutely love this book. There's, of course, a happily ever after, but the couple in this book, their chemistry was just off the charts. Like, I absolutely love this one so much. Ugh. The next one is Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen. I read this as an ARC, and I wish I would have waited for the audiobook because Julia Whalen is an audiobook narrator, one of my favorites, and she also narrated her own book, and I wish I would have listened to it the first time. But I can always go back. This follows an audiobook narrator who was once an actress, and she wants to get out of narrating romance. She doesn't really like the genre. But one of her first authors that she ever narrated for just died and asked her to narrate some of her older stuff to bring back out into the world. And she makes this connection with this like most famous male narrator. And there's also a like You've Got Mail subplot in this one. This was just lovely. I absolutely love this one. Also, I was cracking up. Like, I'm reading it with my eyeballs, which is something I don't really do. I'm just like laughing at my Kindle. So I had a really good time with this one. The next one is more of contemporary fiction, and this is Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. This is Nina LaCour's adult debut. This was one of the most beautiful books I had read this year. This follows two women as their paths intertwine and how they get with each other and lose each other and get with each other and lose each other. And it was such a journey, and I just absolutely love this one. Every time I think about it, it makes me smile. I think for my Taylor Swift recommendations, did this with the song Snow on the Beach. I just love this book. It's definitely one of the more quiet books I had read this year, but it's also one of my favorite books of the year. It is just so beautiful and sapphic. The next book is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely love this one. If I could rank like her historical fiction, it would be Evelyn, Carrie, Daisy, Malibu. So like, I love this one. And the thing is, I don't know if people didn't like this because Carrie is such a bitch, but like I liked it because Carrie is such a bitch. She's unapologetically herself. But this follows Carrie Soto, who is a tennis star in retirement, and someone is about to beat her titles. So she takes herself out of retirement and tries to beat them. And it was just so good. Like, I am not a fan of tennis, like, at all. And this made me want to watch tennis. Like, I understood everything. It wasn't difficult for me to, like, follow. And I just absolutely love this one. I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid is amazing. The next one is one of my like 3 or 4 YAs. There's like hardly any YA, but this is Loveless by Alice Oseman. I read this physically with my eyeballs in less than a day. I remember it was like a Sunday and I was just like, Casman, you got the kids, and I left and I read this book. But this follows a girl who is going to college and she's never like been kissed or had a boyfriend or anything. and then she finds out that she's actually Ace Arrow, and she's just coming to terms with herself and what that means for herself. And I thought the representation in this was so good for me, and I know that there are critiques about it in Goodreads comments, but for me, learning about what Ace Arrow means, I thought it was very educational and very good. And also Alice Oseman is also Ace, so it's own voices. So I just really like this one. The next one is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This was another one I read in one night on sprints. Absolutely love this one. This is one of their more heavy adult romances, if it's not their heaviest one. But you're following this couple who break up and you don't know why, and they get back together and they're trying to like figure out what happened, and then you go back to the night where everything like blew up and you find out what happened. But like, did I almost cry? Yes. This was just beautiful. I absolutely love this one, and I thought for a really long time that I had given up on Christina Lauren because their books just weren't like good in my opinion. This was great. I love this one. The next one is Heartstopper. Heartstopper Volume 4 came out in 2022, so I'm definitely highlighting this one. However, I read the entirety of Heartstopper I think 2 or 3 times throughout 2022, and these had a huge impact on me, especially in April and May when the TV show came out. I don't know. Heartstopper just makes my heart warm and happy. But 4 follows Nick and Charlie when Charlie is going through some mental health things, and it is just like, it hits close to home for me, and I just absolutely love this one, and I love Nick and Charlie. The next one is She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick. These two are actually married, which I thought was great, and this is based on their like real college story. This takes place in college, and basically a girl is trying to help another girl get with another girl. But basically they end up falling in love, which I thought was great. This is another one I read in one day. I think I buddy read this with Rye. The only thing I didn't like about this one is there is some like side plot that has to do with race that I did not think was fleshed out all the way. But otherwise, this was a perfect YA book for me. The next one is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. I don't know what it is about shows that have to do with The Bachelor, but I eat that shit up. This is another one. I don't know. I absolutely love these. But this has to do with a plus size contestant, and I just freaking love this one. It had a lot to do with body positivity, and that was really something that I needed right when I picked this one up, and I thank this book for that, and I haven't stopped thinking about it, and it was just such a great romance, and I absolutely adored it. The next one is Idol by Louise O'Neill. I love this one so much. This, at the time I read it, was like my second favorite book of the year. You are following an influencer who is going back to her hometown, and revelations are coming out about how she might not be a great person, and every single chapter you get her like follower amount on Instagram, and every single chapter it goes down by millions because of the revelations coming out about her. I thought that this was brilliant, and I absolutely love this one. So good. The next one is Fresh by Margot Wood. Margot Wood was the like coordinator for Epic Reads for a very long time and then left and wrote a book, but this has to do with literally a bisexual disaster at her first year in college, and it's enemies to lovers. And I think I read this for the Alphabet Project, and I remember going to Target by myself and listening to this in the car and like cracking up, dying. Like, I remember I went to Target and I parked and something funny happened and I was just like cracking up in my car, and I'm sure people could see me, and I was just like, I don't even care. This is so funny. This was so funny. I wish more people had read this because it's so good. The next one is Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandra Bellafleur. I absolutely love this one. This is the third one in the series, and I think this connected to me so much because Margot is pansexual, and I feel like there is not a lot of pan representation in books, And it is also second chance romance, which normally does not work for me like at all, but for some reason they were friends who were like kind of hooking up, and then they were like miscommunication, which I also really don't like. I don't know why this book worked for me so much, but I absolutely love this one. This is my favorite one in the series, and I just wish more people talked about the series because I think it's so good, especially this one. The next one is Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler. I read this as an arc and I fell in love with this. This follows a cheerleader and a football player, but the football player is also a girl. And it has to do with a whole bunch of homophobia. I think they live in Florida, so it has to do a lot with that. And they don't welcome Jack onto the team because she is a girl, but God, I love this so much. And I think the cheerleader is bi and she's afraid to come out because of the small town that she lives in. I just thought this was so well done. I love this book. Okay, here are my top 3. First we have The Idea of You by Robin Lee. This is a Harry Styles fan fiction, which I did not like After. I think what After did to Harry Styles is not good at all. Like, can we all agree? Okay. The Idea of You is a age gap romance. This mom and her daughter go to meet this band. I think the band is called August Moon, and the mom, you know, is kind of flirting with, I don't know his name, Hayes. Okay, Hayes is Harry in this situation. The ending of this one completely destroyed me. I think this was like the 3rd book I read for 2022. Absolutely destroyed me. I absolutely love this book so much. It is being adapted into a movie with Anne Hathaway. I will be watching that. I love this book so much. Don't let the like Harry Styles fan fiction get you. It's way more than that. It is so good. My number 2 book of the year is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. Once again, this is another Bachelorette type-esque show, except it's male-male. We are following Dev and Charlie. Charlie is the bachelor in this situation, and Charlie is different. He is very anxious. He doesn't really want to do this, but it will help him in his company if he falls for someone. So Dev is basically, he's a producer and he is Charlie's handler, and then they end up falling in love. The ending at the like reunion show, I remember I was folding laundry listening to this and crying in my laundry. Absolutely love this book. I know a lot of people love this book, like it's not just me, but this just like, I read this in February or something and it has stayed with me all year. I want to reread it so bad. I love Alison Cochrane. I loved Kiss Her Once for Me as well. And then my number 1 romance book of the year is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. The Charm Offensive was number 1 all year. And then I read Part of Your World and it kicked it out. And I cannot believe that, because usually this doesn't happen. Usually I have my favorite books locked down in the first quarter of the year. But then I read Part of Your World and it just blew me away. This follows a woman who gets stuck in a ditch, and this nice man in this small town comes and helps her get her car out of the ditch, and then they have a one-night stand. She lives 2 hours away from him, and she's also 10 years older than him, but she keeps going back to this small town to be with this man. They fall in love. It's complicated. I adored this. There is a side plot of her ex and her parents being emotionally abusive to her, and I just thought it was so well done. Like, it hurt my heart, but then like she goes to this man for safety and for love. I love this book so much. So this is my number 1 romance book of the year. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, these are my favorite romance and contemporaries of the year. My next video will be my favorite horror, thriller, sci-fi. I don't know how to title that. But yeah, that's it. I love these videos because I love gushing about books that I love. So thanks for watching my video. See you in my next one. Bye.
losing time, I'm fading fast.